안녕하세요. 담원기아서부터 갤린 김영규입니다. 일단 8강 진출해서 너무 좋고요. 앞으로 만날 팀이 다른 조에 있는데 되게 기대가 많이 됩니다. 그리고 뉴욕에서 가장 좋았던 거는 풍경들이 되게 이쁜 것 같더라고요. 풍경 봐서 되게 좋았습니다.
大家好，我是 JDG 的 AD 候补，就是以小组第一出现8强的话，就是挺开心的。然后
That's cool. It's like you're in FaceTime with them. We just heard from Damwon's, Kellen, and JDG's Hope. Thanks to our ONE+ cam, of course, they already booked their tickets to the quarterfinals. And the big question is, must be nice, because that's not the case yet for the two teams playing now. 100 Thieves up versus the undefeated RNG. Let's take a look at the standings to see how the lay of the land, how the land lays.
How the lay of the land lays here.
It lays undefeated for RNG.
Yes, it does. Does lay undefeated and it lays quite defeated for 100 Thieves, unfortunately. So they're gonna have to try to bounce back. Obviously, 100 Thieves can't drop any games, and that's the pressure is on them big time now.
Definitely so. When we look at RNG, just so impressive so far. They are playing from isolation today, but just about every metric they've been smashing.
And it's really remarkable for a team that for so long, their key identity was obviously how well they play around side lanes. They're 1v1, Xiaohu roaming, impacting other parts of the map, but they've just been kind of smashing in every single way throughout Worlds thus far. Individually, the players have been performing extremely well. Ming still has been doing the same roaming as always done, but now you also have Breathe and GALA both looking incredibly consistent.
Exactly, and I feel like Ming has been, as you have mentioned, the biggest key to this team.
Look at this.
The roaming has been insane. I really loved his set play throughout this group so far, especially that 7-minute fight that they had around River when they went up against the Flying Oysters, where they just took 4 for 1. He has been a monster.
I mean, and to me, the thing with RNG is their early game was never their problem when I think of the LPL. I think where they have had some issues is mid-game and late game, but the problem is you have to stand up to them in the early game to even get a shot in the later stages, right? And they've been blowing teams out so effectively throughout these early stages.
It seems like similarly to Gen G in this group, the individual leads that they get in these lanes become insurmountable.
And this play was beautiful because not only was he able to get this huge setup, but it was mostly because of that vision play that they had. They were ultimately looking towards the top side to be able to get rest, but then when they found out that they were out of position throughout mid, they made the rotation. Incredibly smart play from the team.
And Ming will be a good starting point for this bot lane matchup versus 100 Thieves as well.
And stats to point out here is that as low as his laning percentage is, lowest in terms of groups, which is hilarious, he still has a really high duo proximity. So not only is Ming leaving his lane and going out about on the map, making plays, but GALA is following him.
And to be clear, lane percent 16th is not a bad thing. This means that he's roaming constantly from the lane. It's not that he's in last place in how he's performing in the lane. He is moving around the map constantly, so he's spending the least time of any support in the 2v2 bot.
I will admit it, I asked production, I said, what's that ROA? And he's like, roaming? If anyone else is as stupid as me, there you go. In any case, so let's focus in on this bot lane then. I do hear that we have a little bit of time left before we get to those picks and bans. Azael, 100 Thieves opened up the day by being aggressive in that bot lane, taking the matchup. So how much do you want to see that replicated? Do you think they can take GALA and Ming?
I mean, it's obviously a completely different beast, but I think there's two different ways to approach it, right? Either if you're expecting Ming to roam, you either play roaming picks and you try to batch, or you try to play lane dominant and try to punish the roams, right? So I think 100 Thieves have to come in with a very clear plan. Do you want to play to set up dives and really attack bot every time that Ming is diving? Or are you going to pick something like an Ezreal and match roams and try to play elsewhere? And for me, I'd rather see them focus heavily on that bot, put Ssumday on weak side, get closer on a carry, and really focus on trying to punish every time Ming is moving. Yeah,
and Azael, your final message going into game 1 really resonated. Being able to really rely on FBI and Huhi's bot lane domination, where they literally did that versus CDB's Flying Oyster. And for RNG as a team, I thought they looked best when they didn't really play lane domination, where you saw more so the Kai'Sa, which is now great within this composition, or at least in this meta, and mostly focused on Ming roaming and then team fighting for GALA.
When it comes to the top lane you just mentioned, being safe, of course, we had a really big discussion about priority there. And LPL and LCK top laners and their choices. Ssumday did go for the Fiora before. Raz Are you in the camp of don't do that and just be safe?
I think if you play well
Answer
around
carefully,
his
Raz.
timing,
You might get kicked off the deck.
it's gonna be tough. It's gonna be tough. It's gonna be tough. I would naturally say no. I would naturally say no because it's harder in team fights and just harder execution. But I thought Ssumday played well around it. If they're not going to get an Aatrox that's the obvious option or a Sejuani, then I think with how well he has been playing, I'm okay with him on the Fiora.
And I'm liking that we highlight.
This is
No.
I said it.
I'm gonna
I
blow
said it.
past it because I don't want you guys to get in a fight.
Good.
I'm not gonna vote.
Good.
No,
You can
I'll hold you
finish.
back. I'll hold you back.
Good.
So
I appreciate
think
it.
what's important there is highlighting how well Hui did in the previous game and how he was able to set up a lot of the team fights with his Amumu. And as long as they don't go for Fiora, I know we are very much on the same. Or sorry, the Fiora and the MF, both of which not okay.
I thought you were on my side.
No.
No, I'm definitely not. I thought the Sejuani was a way better call, and I hope that they do that
If he
again.
has access to it, yes.
No,
It's getting
yeah.
bad.
If he has access to the
There's like
Fiora,
3
they should
tanks.
self-ban it. We are not playing Fiora anymore.
I have made it Ssumday.
LCS has won 0 games on Fiora internationally. All time.
They've won very few games
0,
in general.
not
in
very
general.
few.
Okay, I know. Please, I'm trying to make my point. What Hui did in the previous game
Repenge Raz.
will be very difficult to do because he is playing against Ming. And that, to me, is one of the biggest issues that I need to see. How is 100 Thieves going to fix this? Because I think actually getting out on the map earlier against GALA and Ming is going to be astronomically more difficult.
Yeah.
And if 100 Thieves
Yeah.
don't get those angles, I don't know if they're going to be able to withstand the amount of punishment that RNG is able to find on the rest of the map.
Great point. Now I'm going to go back to Ssumday.
No!
Mostly because I would say from week 1, the best performer for 100 Thieves for me
7 in.
has been Ssumday. Oh, wow. Okay,
Bold
you know
choice.
what? Reaper top lane. That's,
How's his Fiora?
Better?
was Fiora, was it available when he was back when he was playing?
It's probably old Fiora.
Yeah,
was
yeah,
old
okay,
Fiora.
yeah, you're
Go ahead,
right.
sorry.
You're
Call
right.
Fiora old? Oh my god.
And the old, yeah, there we go.
Anyway.
But yes, I thought he was their best performer, and I thought that coming into this tournament, 100 Thieves did a great job at playing around Ssumday, and it's going to be a natural issue for 100 Thieves fans. Like, would you rather play towards Ssumday or FBI and Huhi? And during the regular season, Ssumday has been their best performer.
I mean, Ssumday is incredible, but it doesn't matter if you win the 1v1 on Fiora if your team doesn't know how to translate it into a win,
Yes.
right? And that's my problem. We literally saw them try this against Cloud9 regionally, where we saw Fudge kind of introduce Fiora in NA playoffs. Then Ssumday started picking up some of these counter picks. He tried to go towards it, but even when he was doing well in lane, they couldn't actually translate it into victories. And I think we're going to see the same problem here. It's not a slight on Ssumday as an individual. Fiora is a team-changing pick, right?
Yes.
Your team needs to set yourself up, to really be able to get massive advantages in that side lane, because otherwise you can't actually join the 5v5 and have any success. So even if they're going to play towards Ssumday, I would much rather see it be on an Aatrox, on a Renekton, on a Gangplank, like anything but.
I feel so guilty that I've thrown this in there. We do have an audio issue. As a reminder, RNG's playing in isolation, so are 2 players out of 100 Thieves. But I like this conversation
Oh,
a lot.
dedication!
Look at those
Oh my
The
legends!
God.
Oyster fans!
Legends!
Oh, where are they? That's insane.
Can we see that? Yeah, over there?
Oh,
Yeah.
far side, far
Oh,
side.
Just
that's
randomly
beautiful.
pointing because I actually can't. Oh, this is so great. Once again, thank you so much for bearing with us as well. But this top lane conversation is interesting because I was looking at it specifically also that RNG has also just picked the Jax when the Aatrox was on the other side and won with it, right? So even that is becoming dangerous.
Yeah, I don't think our beating RNG is going to happen through topside. I
No.
loved your pitch, Raz, but I'm very much in
I
the
said I was
Azil.
fine
I'm
with
very
it.
much
You
in the
loved it?
Azil part of it. Well,
said I was fine with it.
I'm trying to be nice.
Let me
okay?
redirect you. Let me redirect you.
No,
to
we
a
can keep
couple of
arguing.
them.
Well,
Yeah,
I
back
was
to the
no,
deck.
I was because I was
This is
going.
content.
You weren't done?
Yeah.
No, because I was actually going to point before
Spit
I
it
got
out.
interrupted by both
Spit
of
it
you. Xiaohu's champion pool.
Yeah.
I think Xiaohu in particular is essential to RNG functioning and looking as dominant as they have. I'm going back to the game against Gen G, where they were able to dismantle them so early on. It was literally a couple of early bad trades on top side, couple of bad trades on mid, and between Wei and Xiaohu, they completely ran over the entire team. And if he is not on things like the Lissandra or the Galio, I think that becomes a whole lot harder.
Yeah, and RNG's best feat has always been their team fighting, and I think they showed that when they went up against Gen G around Drakes. And
Oh, yeah.
that's something that 100 Thieves have clearly improved on from week 1 to week 2, and I think should be a consistent focus around stacking up Drakes.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that they need to draft for 5v5. I think that is your best shot. Of course, you know, when you draft scaling and when you draft 5v5, there's always the chance that you just get blown out early. But the reality is I don't think that 100 Thieves are going to be able to execute on a full early game comp to the level that you would need to actually take a win against RNG. You know, and especially when you're looking at that top lane, if you're trying to go aggressive, Breathe has been so outstanding in 1v1s. Like, to me, he is arguably the best Fiora and Jax. You know, at the very least, he's at the very tip of the table with Zeus and with, you know, some of these players. But like, it's going to be so tough to actually deal with him in those 1v1s.
And I feel like you can say it about every player on RNG just because of the first round that they had. Of course, there's some circumstances right now, and they are playing from isolation. But we saw teams do one of two things, right? They either imploded after the break, or they got much, much better. I'm leaning towards for RNG. I feel like they will just improve on what they have done, but we have to see.
Absolutely. And I think a lot of it goes through their topside play. I know a lot of our conversation has been how 100 Thieves, or at least North American teams in general, not able to play through carry tops. Breathe is a different beast, and I feel like RNG, Wei in particular, has done a really good job domestically and here at this tournament playing through Breeze. If he needs covering, he's been there for him. When they're looking for a dive, they've executed with Xiaohu. So it's going to be a challenge for Ssumday if they're looking towards playing
keep
bot
talking
side.
about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, for me, you know, one of the things that RNG does so well is how they're enabling it. You're talking about it, you know, and Xiaohu has always been such a centerpiece and such a focal point of this team because of the way I think he enables the rest of his team, because he is playing things like the Galio and the Lissandra and these picks that doesn't necessarily need to be the focal point of the team. He can get push, he can coordinate very well with these roams from Ming or with his jungler, you know, get advantage there, then start moving out to the sides. And RNG really is excellent at actually snowballing the game through the sides once they get control over mid. And I think that's why we see Ming moving from lane so much, because once you get Xiaohu the ability to affect the map, RNG looks incredible, and they have looked incredible for so many years because this guy knows how to play the map as well or better than pretty much everyone in the world.
And they are a team that will force you to change how you think about draft because of what Xiaohu is willing to give up. He'll play a Galio or a Lissandra into an Azir, into a kiteback long-range composition because he has a lot of faith in Ming to be able to roam and give him timings or just execute on the fights and dives when they come. So it's interesting. Definitely Gen G faced it that last week. 100 Thieves are going to face in this game. I want to see what we get.
I love that point because I think this is also kind of a moniker of good LCK and great LPL teams overall when they run into EU and NA counterparts, right? They will be willing to take a trade that you didn't expect them to take, and they will come out with something different that nullifies a lot of your game plan. I think that is possibly one of the hardest things to prepare for. By the way, we still have an in-game audio issue that is persisting, so we're trying to figure it out.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things, you know, when you talk to a lot of the players after they go international is that there are these windows in the game that they're getting punished for where they're making mistakes that they didn't even realize were mistakes because in regional play, there's things that they can get away with, bad habits that are taught and learned because your opponent isn't strong enough to punish you in that way. And when you come here and you have these players that are so mechanically proficient, they are confident to take these matchups that other people wouldn't play in the same way. They play it more aggressively, they take trades, and they'll fight and trade with you in situations where if you're not confident to actually just scrap back with them and have a fight to the death almost, you just have to sacrifice your lane. You have to give it up pretty much immediately.
I remember Impact saying that exact same thing at MSI, being the main takeaway going into that international event. And for me, one of the biggest takeaways for North American teams when they go to international play is, one example, should the top laner be there when, you know, Vision is being contested for Drakes or something like that, or can they TP in? I feel like oftentimes in domestic play, top laners are like, I should be able to get min-max, beyond side waves, TP when I'm needed. But then when you face up against really strong teams that can punish you, they're like, well, actually, maybe I should just be there to begin with.
And what I always find really interesting is that not only is it a question of learning and unlearning those habits, but you also see that players that have come from a different environment, and you guys can both attest to this, with players like Impact and Ssumday, that even if domestically they do show a lot of these worse habits where it's easier to punish them, the moment that they go up against stronger opponents that go in way harder, that are actually able to punish them, you kind of see them revert back to, I think, a much more higher level of play overall.
Well, and that's why I think adaptation is always the name of the game when you come to international play. It's not just about the meta, it's about how your opponents are actually playing the map, how your opponents are playing the lanes. You've got to be able to change it and mold your play style to really suit what is going on at Worlds.
And I think that is also why this is so behemoth of an... oh, we're ready! Yay! Let's go over to our casters, Kadril, Dagda, and Dracos.
Woo! New York!
We got
Let's
there.
do it.
Let's
I'm
get
ready.
into it.
We're finally. We're ready. We're ready to go. We've heard every lane broken down. The analyst desk did a beautiful job of setting us up for this one. This is it. The second last dance of the 100 Thieves. They got through the first last dance. Can they the second, the third? Of course, RNG, a tough opponent, a terrifying opponent. But if they can keep the dream alive, worthy of the title of NA's last hope.
And Gen G fans will be watching this game as well, because if RNG win, then Gen G locks too. Both of them will lock in this singular game. 100 Thieves win, it's anybody's game. But we're straight into drafts. Nice. Into the game we go. Small delay, but RNG on the blue side, 100 Thieves on the red. Couple must-bans here. And there goes Xiaohu's Lissandra already off the board.
Yeah, I mean, look, this has been an incredibly good pick for them, where they're just able to all in so well through that mid lane pick. Azir being respected against Abbedagge as well, not a pick that Xiaohu actually looked particularly good on himself. And again, more respect towards Xiaohu, which means we still have things like the Aatrox for Breed, the Fiora for Breed, even Yuumi still up and available. But I honestly think the MVP for RNG has been Ming. So maybe keeping him on these engaged champions might work out a bit better for them.
So many champions are up.
Yeah.
USA Chance fighting the RNG Chance. Aatrox is going to be the ban. Yuumi is up. Does RNG first pick Yuumi? 100 Thieves will have things like the Lucian to respond with, the Callista perhaps, if they want to go down that rabbit hole.
Oh, here we go. Oh. NA risking the gambit. So many teams have fallen flat against this champion. The final death of NA at the hands of a cat would be brutal, but 100 Thieves ready with a response of their own. How will they fire back? This is not a champion you can fall behind against.
And especially when you start to look at like some of the other big picks that are still up and available, like a Yuumi attached to a Fiora, say for Breathe, or even being able to get onto a Viego for Wei. It feels like you have a lot of opportunities here for RNG.
So this is going to be the Senna Seraphine out of FBI and huhi. You have to imagine they have a 100% win rate on this. huhi pilots the Seraphine, FBI pilots the Senna. But where do they pick the Senna? Do they pick something like jungle here or top like a Sejuani and then pick Senna on 3? There is an RNG legend on the screen. Never managed to get the world title, but did get an MSI one, Uzi. But it's going to be the Sejuani Seraphine expecting Senna on 3.
Yeah, I think that's going to be the big one. Sorry, I was distracted because actually, fun fact, RNG have finished in every single position at Worlds except for finals. Knocked out, they hit finalists twice, semi-finals, quarterfinals, even knocked out in groups in 2019. The only thing left for RNG to achieve is that World Final.
Well, see if this is the year. It's looking good for them so far, undefeated in the group stage. A little bit of struggle in the play-ins, but they made it, only losing that one game.
And certainly the group stages looked fantastic for them, 3-0 overall. And again, the tools that they have secured for themselves thus far, the Sivir and the Yuumi, a nigh unstoppable combo has looked so good across so many games. If you get late enough, it feels actually unbeatable. But now, Breathes Fiora coming out, and RNG are not holding back. They are laying down the gauntlet for 100 Thieves.
How does Ssumday respond? Could go with something like the Orin counter, pick yourself, play weak side, but you have a Senna Seraphine, so you need something up here that can do damage in this top matchup.
Shout out to Kadril. But I think the really interesting thing here for RNG is like you've got really good side lane pressure now, especially when you look towards how you can contest mid-wave with the Sivir. So you actually need to try and figure out something here for 100 Thieves that can match the Fiora, and they go with the Renekton.
Skill matchup versus skill matchup here. They need a top side to play towards with the Senna Seraphine. We'll see what the mid pool looks like. Of course, Xiaohu's Galio and Lissandra banned away. We'll see if he wants to go for something like the Talia to roam up and help out that top side. But things like Sylas are up, LeBlanc, Akali, if either of these teams want to lean towards it. Sejuani also still up if 100 Thieves want to play Sejuani jungle here on 3 for frontline with the Renekton. I expect RNG to maybe take that one away given the Graves ban.
And I wonder if the Hecarim at all will be any priority. Normally not a champion that I'd really love to see, but so incredibly good with the Senna Seraphine. Makes a lot of use out of their more supportive tools. But for now, you can see a lot of the carry jungle options being taken off the board because they know that bot lane will not be the biggest source of damage for a large portion of the game. So limiting what can come out from Closer's champion pool.
Yeah, I'm curious if they ban away the Vi. It feels like at the moment when you've already got rid of the Lissandra, the Galio, a lot of those engage tools you can use around the mid lane, apart from maybe like something like an Ari, can actually be put through the mid lane. So looking at the jungle, it feels like trying to manipulate it so there isn't that big engage tool coming through from Wei with the Vi. Could have been the good option, but looks like they're worried about the Sylas here. We'll take that one off the board.
I wonder if we'll see Xiaohu's TF as well. Maybe something global to impact the rest of the map on these in this volatile top matchup. I'll hold my breath for now. Sylas ban coming out. I wonder what 100 Thieves are thinking of. Counter pick mid makes the most sense, but there goes the Sejuani for jungle blind. You could opt to take the strongest jungler here, something like the Poppy, but it's not the greatest into their comp, or just pick something in mid like an Akali or a Viktor and then just leave your jungle till 5, depending on how aggressive Closer wants to get.
And this is such a high-stakes pick. Again, you're blind picking something. You're going to be in a difficult situation. Opting to go for the Control Mage would make a lot of sense. Certainly has been one of the premier picks of the tournament, Control Mage meta. Mostly the case for mid lane.
Curious if we get the LeBlanc matchup here. I mean, it's something that can do well into the Viktor, especially if you do get that jungle help for Xiaohu, and he's already brought it out at the tournament here. Feels like it could be a really good opportunity, especially if they do have way going towards more than engage tool like the Vi that we already talked about. I feel like a Vi and a LeBlanc here could cause an absolute major issue for Abbedagge in this mid lane.
Yeah, LeBlanc, Ahri, anything with dashes forwards. Even Syndra could work pretty well if they want to opt into it. A little bit of a Syndra prior rising up with this Control Mage meta to help you have a stronger mid jungle at 6.
It definitely feels like, at least for RNG, trying to get something that can do well on side lanes is also a big factor here, right? Because you already have mid-wave push, you already have the advantages you need in Poppy, but I think that's the big one here is, look, you can actually start to play the 1-3-1, and it's been the strength of RNG for so long to actually play through these side lanes.
And with these top side champs, I feel like Poppy is a bit of a no-brainer here for Closer to help peel for your carries for the Viktor, Senna, Seraphine in the backline with Vi jumping in, Fiora, Akali. Poppy seems like one of the strongest junglers to negate a lot of that. Of course, weak into the Sivir, and she will look to free hit. Hecarim's another champ that can work well with the Seraphine in terms of having that raw team fight. They have a little bit of lockdown with the Renekton W and the Viktor stun. You've got the Root, the Seraphine ult. Farming jungler. Is farming jungler the call here?
I don't like the farming jungler. I prefer something that can actually match toe-to-toe in the early stages.
Here we go.
Because what you need to do here is shut down RNG in the early stages. Stop them from being able to play side lanes and play towards your strength, which is team fight. So really good adaptation here with the Jarvan to play both in towards that early game focus, but also add to that team fight later, locking up things like this Sivir so you can deal as much damage as possible to it.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense to lock down the Sivir. Will struggle against the Fiora, Vi, and the Akali. Not so much the Vi, but the idea, I presume, here is, you know, you've got the Jarvan ult, the Viktor ult, the Seraphine over the top with a Renekton in their face. They've got a lot of tools to stop the top side of RNG from diving onto this Senna Seraphine, but top side is the focus this game. I think the Yuumi Seraphine likely in isolation until 6 when these junglers decide to go down there and lock down those targets. But until then, I think top side's where the focus will be. Renekton Fiora, I mean, that's just a lot of trading in that lane. Both junglers need to hover around.
RNG fighting to lock their spot in the top 2, fighting to lock their spot in the quarterfinals. 100 Thieves fighting for their lives. Every single game must be won today. They got one already over the Oysters. Already made the impossible possible just a little bit, but RNG, a titanic opponent. Can 100 Thieves bring it back? Can they find another win on the day? Pressure on that man on your screen, most certainly. The Jarvan has to impact the early game, the scaling battle. We've seen what it means when there's a Sivir Yuumi in the game. She feels like an inevitability. If 100 Thieves cannot shut this composition down from RNG, they will be run over.
And as Kedro pointed out at the start of the day, this is a team that has consistently been at the top of North American League of Legends. Now going up against the MSI champions, they need to bring it home for North America.
They really do, and this RNG comp, we've seen something very similar in the first day of groups. I believe it was T1 running this exact comp, except with Lee Sin jungle, and they just destroyed EDG with it. Maybe RNG was watching that game and saying, we can pull something off similar here if we get the Yuumi first pick. 5 points on both sides on the level 1, no real invades coming in, no bot lane wards just yet. So it might be a slow game in the early stages.
Certainly could be. Keeping our eyes on FBI and huhi as well, seeing what they can do to stop GALA and Ming from getting any CS, limiting their ability to scale up in this game. But as highlighted, jungler is really going to be everything in this one. Closer especially.
I think we're going to be looking at a lot of action around this top side, especially when you look at the likes of the Renekton. The way this matchup plays, it's so much around the stun coming through from Ssumday, and if you can get the riposte. So a lot of agency on Ssumday's side. Breathe the early stage, at least getting some good trades in there for the get-go.
That stinks, doesn't it? The Renekton getting a little bit chunked out. So Closer is solo starting on his red here. I wonder what his pathing will look like. You can be creative and do something like red, EQ over the Nash wall, and then look for the enemy blue buff. But this ward right here is so good because it spots both angles. If Closer goes over here or goes around here, that ward will spot both. So good ward from RNG to cover off any kind of cross maps. Thieves pinging the ward, maybe knowing it's around.
Yep, Tri-Brush covered as well for any potential level 2 cheese. Will instead just turn his attention towards Raptors. And right now, Breathe, monstering Ssumday. And this is such a brutal lane because if you ever have a Vital proc remotely facing the Fiora, it just feels impossible to win trades in the early level.
So a bit confused at the moment because Closer is actually pathing bot. Unless he goes Gromp into backtracking towards top, then his Renekton is going to be very vulnerable to dives if Wei rushes to level 3 and Breathe can stack waves. See what he chooses to do though.
I'm wondering if they're going to try and set up some sort of play with Abbedagge here, right? You've already got the push coming in on bot side. Closer could be there. If you crash this wave with the slow push that you have, maybe they just look to go for a dive on the bottom side early. But, I mean, with the Senna, Seraphine, you don't have a huge amount of damage, so it would be a little bit messy. We'll have to see exactly what the plan is.
Ssumday safe for now. The wave crash while Wei is on his Gromp, so he'll be very happy with that. Abbedagge in this range matchup should have the early push and the early trade advantage, like you said, if he wants to look around the map. Huhi and FBI keeping the bot wave in, and now Closer and Wei have dinged over to level 3. What's the option then? Closer looks like he's hovering on a backtrack, just finished the blue, gonna go towards the wolves, and Wei finishing up on his camps too. Abbedagge is gonna get a little bit of vision in the enemy jungle.
See Wei moving down. Abbedagge getting that vision as you highlighted and continuing to trade aggressively with Xiaohu as much as he can. Getting those first strike procs, trying to scale more and more. Level 6, of course, for this lane gets a lot more volatile. Ssumday hitting level 3, crucial for the Renekton. Now he can actually start to trade. Now he can actually start to fight back. Both champions with all their skills unlocked now means we finally get to the skill portion of the skill matchup.
Closer going to hover around on this bottom side still, though, has full cleared, so moving back down to where he has the push to make sure he doesn't run into Wei, because with the control the Breathe had, could have been a bit of an uncomfortable situation. And just now following up on the vision that already was placed by Abbedagge, just trying to spot out exactly where Wei is on these early stages, and even steal away the Krugs on this bottom side.
Well, Wei moving up to the top side. Really have to try and push the advantage if they want to go for the dive here. Ssumday with full fury ready to go. Burning it just to get a little bit of health back. Definitely not an ideal use of the empowered Cole the Meek.
So RNG gonna take away the Krugs. Both junglers have done the exact same pathing. Now Breathe could try to crash this wave if they want to look for a dive. Closer is around bot if they want to look for a dive, but FBI gets chucked out. I think that's going to be a cold off dive. So we expected action on both sides depending on jungle pathing, but Wei will find Ssumday a bit.
Taking Krugs in the meantime, but if this wave gets stacked in, you can see already that Ssumday's backing off here. Has to be very, very careful.
A bit confused of the game plan because the Renekton was picked into the Fiora, so you're basically saying we're gonna match you in aggression topside. They're not actually indexing on it too much. Closer pathed away from it. Maybe they said in Champ Select, well, we lose 2v2 early, let's wait till level 6, that's when we can start winning the 2v2. So we'll see what Closer does on the second rotation clear. Ssumday though.
Good play from Ssumday. Level 5 for Breathe. Ssumday not gonna try to push there, but gets the parry out, doesn't burn the stun.
I mean, for Breathe, that's actually a pretty good trade, right? You have held Ssumday, who's just returned to lane off the TP. Breathe will get to reset and come back into lane himself with that health advantage, even be able to pick up a couple of pots. So, good trade for Breathe when he already wanted to go for that reset regardless.
FBI already out of lane, just gonna pick up some souls here as Wei now steps forward. Root now coming in, Closer already used the flag, so doesn't have the opportunity to follow up there. Xiaohu's forced out of lane, at least for now, in mid.
Really nice counter jungling here by Closer. Has the Raptor timing, knows the vibe pathing was the exact same as his. Calls FBI from base to go match with him and gets a ward on the entrance as well. So a lot of vision for the bot side of 100 Thieves. Now Closer's just going to cover his own Raptors, but Wei sneaking towards Abbedagge here.
Abbedagge, no mana. 1, 2, 3. Hitting in. Big damage coming in. Abbedagge forced to flash away. Devastating.
Xiaohu missed the shuriken flip, so actually wasn't able to follow up on the play. And you see with the help bar that Abbedagge had, that could have been this. Their Wei using that pressure in mid lane to try and invade himself. The Closer will be able to steal away a good amount of them, but a mistake from Xiaohu there means they don't get the kill.
Yeah, that should have been a kill for RNG. Wei held it perfectly, just the shuriken wasn't in time. Maybe Xiaohu a little bit too far away, so Abbedagge just basically sidestepped it in the end and then decided to flash away a little bit later on. So here's Closer on this top side, has the pickaxe, but just covering Ssumday's push out. Things over to the level 6, pink ward in the river, won't spot Closer as his bot camps are spawning, bot crab spawning. They probably want to maintain a little bit of this bot side vision, and Dragon is up, so Ssumday probably going to crash his waves and take a base.
So many of these early plays feel so high stakes now. Abbedagge has to be very, very careful. Xiaohu has ticked over to level 6. You can already see him giving the Akali so much more respect in the laning phase. Xiaohu as well, not opting for any MR. need to worry about it too much at the stage, instead opting for Pen. So really wants to try to find these early kills, these early plays, and Breathe just now ticking over to 6 on the top side of the map.
What I will say is this bot matchup's going pretty well for 100 Thieves. The Senna Seraphine has the push, they've got a plate up a little bit in creeps, keeping the Sivir under wraps, which allows Closer to get this bot scrap uncontested. He has a little bit of bot push to work with if he chooses to, and level 6 it'll only really get better for the Seraphine when she has a little bit more kill pressure and setup for the Jarvan. Just maintaining this push makes it so there's no real threat of roams towards mid. Of course, Yuumi quite weak in that regard, but keeping your eyes, keeping your tracks on them means that the Vi can't team up with the Yuumi, and Wei's just gonna cycle through his next camps on the bot side.
But it feels like, at least on both sides, you're still waiting for these junglers to really get involved. Wei kind of leaning down towards the spot side to see if he can work with GALA and Ming, but they will have to go for a reset of themselves, but could try and use the dragon, or at least pick up the dragon now that they have that bot push if they want to. Also, at least a push in mid for the moment, but I think the big winner here is going to be breathing these side lanes. Massive CS lead, getting full control against Ssumday, because Closer hasn't really paid attention to it. And when we talked about RNG's game plan being, we want to play through side lanes, we want to try and use this big Fiora, it's at least starting off relatively well.
Certainly is Wei gonna get that red buff just in time. He's gonna go with the blast cone, Closer. Ooh, Wei spots him out. They know something's afoot. FBI in the area too, that's one very squishy Senna. But they're not gonna go for the play there.
Yeah, Wei thinking about it, but not enough backup. Ming is on the way to match up with the Vi, so they will pair up and look for some kind of bot side vision. Top wave stacking into Ssumday. Won't net them anything. Now, 100 Thieves don't actually know where RNG's jungler is, but because FBI has moved up here and huhi has got bot wave in, they're going to start up this Herald. Breathe has the top push, so he'll be around for the next few seconds while Ssumday catches that wave. Ming is here, Wei very close to that level 6. I wonder if he gets it off this mid wave. If he does, they could look for an engage, but if he doesn't have that level 6 ultimate, it becomes very hard to face check.
FBI hiding in the mist. Makes it hard for Vi if she does get the ultimate to lock him down. They're trying to burn through this Herald. Big conflict inside 100 Thieves. Taking that Herald down is massive for this early game.
And I don't think RNG really wanted to fight that. They were just like, hey, as long as we can force you to commit members to this, we can actually get GALA to take the 2 plates on bot side. And a really good job actually from 100 Thieves so far in controlling vision around this bottom half of the map. It meant that they had basically a clean walkway up for huhi, so he couldn't get picked off by Wei, by Xiaohu, even with Ming as well. So far, 100 Thieves doing a good job of keeping things in check and keeping it nice and slow and trying to play more for those team fights.
You can see right now, 700 gold lead. Wei just now taking over to level 6, wants to kick the fight off, wants to lock down close, wants to get the chain CC, but they've locked him in the gravity field. He's gone invincible, but now Xiaohu trying to clean up on the backside. FBI so squishy, but the ultimate stopping him. GALA leaping forward, FBI running for his life. Can he gank it out? No, Xiaohu on the chase. There's got to be no way. Still standing for now. The lockdown, not nearly enough, and GALA making a montage with the rest of them.
GALA finally gets onto the map with RNG and they pick up the kills. 2 for Xiaohu, 1 for the AD carry. And just like that, RNG swing the goal back to even.
Really good decisiveness there from RNG to just pull the trigger. Wei leveling up off the big raptor on the smite, just chooses to flash ult onto Closer. It looked okay for 100 Thieves because it was a 1-for-1 and Abbedagge was the one who got the first blood, but it's GALA's move that shut them down and picked up those extra kills for RNG. Sivir now 1-0-1, 2 kills over to this Akali. 100 Thieves are doing a great job at leveraging their mid and bot push so they could get first to these objectives, but now kills in the Akali favor will hurt this mid matchup for Abbedagge.
And now we got to see how 100 Thieves want to try and bring this back in as well, because you do have that rift shard on the bottom side. You know that RNG have just reset, so they may immediately just turn this over into either the dragon or just trying to crack open a little bit more of these plates on bot end. But again, it feels like you should be trying to put a lot of these resources through your mid lane more so than the bot, just because if Abbedagge does get to that late game a bit quicker, that Viktor can do a lot.
So smite on the raptor, flash ult onto Closer, actually gets the kill here, Abbedagge, the first blood, but you can see FBI went towards the bot wave because as they were doing the Herald, GALA pushed the wave in and was getting plates. FBI was forced to catch, and that means that there are a numbers disadvantage when GALA moves up this river. 2 kills to Xiaohu, 1 kill over to GALA as Abbedagge had no flash from earlier on.
Oh man.
Hits him with the pizza.
The New York special, baby, thin crust. Abbedagge, not a fan.
And now GALA's eating good on this bot side. Kraken Slayer already there for him. Now they start to move through as well. And look at where Vi is. Wei sitting in on this bot end as well. Wants to see if he can catch 100 Thieves as they move back into bot end.
It's interesting how 100 Thieves are still 300 gold up despite being down 2 kills. The Senna gold helping them out there. A couple plates in their favor. CS not super ahead in any specific lane, but able to tie up that gold nonetheless. They still have that Herald, 1/3 left on the timer, and Wei knows that Closer wants to play some on this bot side, so he's looking for him, fishing for information, but GALA has no flash, so 100 Thieves could look for a pick here as the Vi and Yuumi are teamed up. The Sivir is isolated, but Abbedagge might be the one isolated.
Abbedagge needs to make his way out. That's one instantly flashing under the tower, laying down the gravity kill. Xiaohu looking for the follow-up, looking to land the shuriken flip. Abbedagge needs to make his way out. Ult in, trying to get around through the minions, but it's not enough. Xiaohu taking him down. Viktor will not finish Wei, and on the bottom side, the play falters as GALA will make it out.
Not even close. I suppose his way went very deep on that one with Xiaohu no way to follow up, but now you know they're low. 100 Thieves will drop this Herald on the bot side, knowing that they have the health advantage, but Yuumi exists, and now Wei does
full
well.
combo.
TP.
Wei ready to go in. Flag drag over the wall to knock up the interrupt, stopping Closer from getting anything in exchange. Huhi now backing off. Tower still standing for now. Xiaohu here in the midst of everything. 100 Thieves forced to back away. Now spotted out in the brush as well. So difficult in these exchanges. Ming, despite the fact that he's not playing a traditional roaming support, has been everywhere on the map.
Yeah, teaming up with Wei, making sure he's around GALA and Xiaohu for these river fights. Abbedagge TP's back mid to get a plate, despite losing his flash and his life earlier on. So it's just a pick here from Wei. I thought that on the bot side, Closer would find GALA with the EQ over the wall, but I think GALA has just enough distance on the minimap to actually run away. And then Abbedagge ends up falling, almost kills Wei. Xiaohu was a little bit close for a couple seconds, but has the damage take him out, uses the R2 to get out of tower range, and it's easy kills there for RNG. I think GALA actually used the Sivir ult on bot side to run away from Closer as he EQ'd over the wall.
Xiaohu, though, will be spotted on the ward, so just backing away, but that ward will die in a moment, so not at the end of the road that he didn't end up clearing it out, but you can see exactly what RNG's game plan is now. We've already helped out bot, we've got mid very much ahead. Let's see now if we can turn that into some advantages for Breathe as well. Rift Tower going to be open in minute 20. That, I feel like, is going to be the next game plan for RNG.
Certainly feels like it has to be. Dragon stacking, starting to feel more and more like something that 100 Thieves need to turn their attention to as a potential win con. Still very strong in the fights, lots of AoE CC that can be layered on top of each other, but with a 3-0 Akali, a Fiora who's very comfortably farming up on the top side. Certainly the side lanes are not going to get any easier for the side of 100 Thieves.
100 Thieves comp, the way the team fights will work is they're a death pool, right? They want to stay together as 5, have wards on flanks, make sure they're very aware of where Xiaohu and Breathe are finding angles to enter the fight. They need to lock them down so that this DPS of the Viktor, Senna, Seraphine can just use all their spells in tandem on multiple different targets. RNG want to find those flanks to split 100 Thieves up. They need to make sure that around these dragons and these heralds, they stay together. 30 seconds on that herald spawn. Does 100 Thieves want to contest it? They could get first break on this bot tier 1 that's incredibly low.
I think RNG are doing the right game plan, though. They know exactly what you said, Cage. 100 Thieves want to group up as 5 and start to look for those fights. So what are they doing? Wei's moving in top side. He's getting vision. They're looking for picks. They're trying to see if they can make a play before the Rift Herald spawns.
They will be able to secure this herald. Huhi has the TP, but FBI's down on the bot side of the map. They're giving up the mid push here. Abbedagge actually zoned away from his own tower. Maybe Huhi has to invest a TP here to defend these waves, but he's going to push in the next bot wave. First tower over to them. Abbedagge should be able to hold on to this with Closer being around. Wei won't commit to the dive. No stopwatches on the jungle mid of the 100 Thieves lineup. Waves pushed in, Herald started up. RNG on this top side of the map.
Of course, Huhi on the bottom side, free license to push in another wave as they've spotted every single member of RNG at the map at this stage. But as you've highlighted, Herald feels like 100 Thieves don't have the tools necessary to contest this one. Huhi does, of course, have the TP, but not really a strong proposition at this point, as they do not have the vision control or the mid push.
A little bit of an awkward map state here because Dragon's spawning in 30 seconds. RNG have 2 options. Number 1, go top, try to force dives, try to put a Herald down here, get this tower, move towards mid and secure 2 towers, or they could just go towards this Dragon spawning in 20 seconds, take bases and use the Herald as a pressure point on that objective spawn.
And it's super hard to know what the right call is, right? Because you don't really want this Dragon stacking to continue for 100 Thieves.
No.
That's how they get to force fights. But you also are very aware that, honestly, the fact that you can have control over side lanes and get these towers down is the win condition.
Oh, here we go. GALA locked out, forcing the flash early is big. Of course, traded for the J4 ultimate. Closer still has his flash.
Yeah, 100 Thieves probably happy with that trade because they can try to get this mid wave in and they can be first to the objective. Xiaohu looking for those flanks. Wei looking for an angle as well. Jarvan ult, relatively low cooldown, but they won't have enough time to wait out the ultimate as the Dragon has spawned. RNG want to force. Breathe has no TP. Ssumday does. So if RNG overcommit here, it could be a 5v4. There's plenty of TP wards for Ssumday, but he will lose his tower. It's a give and take here for 100 Thieves. Lose your top tower, get a Dragon. What's worth it? Ssumday trading onto Breathe.
Ooh, and some unlucky procs there in terms of RNG spawning right on the side of Ssumday as he does get chipped lower and lower, but has Gore Drinker, has ultimate. It's difficult for Breathe to go for the full dive, especially in the context of the 1v1. RNG continuing to step forward on the bot side. River looking to get control over this Infernal Drake. Not sure what the soul will be yet, but we know it will be crucial.
And it's a good call from RNG to try to spread 100 Thieves thin. Ssumday loses his health bar to Breed, so Ssumday's less effective if he TPs in. They got push on bot, they push in mid, forcing 100 Thieves to spread out on the map, which means you can't get the 5v5 rolling for 100 Thieves.
I actually like what 100 Thieves have done here because all three lanes are under so much pressure that going to this dragon felt impossible. If they walked in, then maybe Xiaohu could take bot tier 1, Breed would take top tier 1, GALA's keeping these mid waves in, so there was a threat of losing multiple towers there, so 100 Thieves decide to hold onto them and just go even in the dragons. So it's always good for them to keep me on scaling here on these champions like Viktor and Seraphine.
And I'm curious now how RNG want to try and play this out with the Rift Herald, because it feels like GALA just insta-pushes mid because Sivir exists as a champion. So move Ming with Wei to top side, use Rift Herald there, crack up inside lane turret, and then you can pretty much just continue to chip away at this mid turret as GALA, because you already know that you're going to be able to get that one with a single push once you commit members there.
It's interesting, isn't it? Look at the gold there. We just saw there briefly. Xiaohu, 3 kills, 0 deaths. Abbedagge, 1 kill. They're actually even in gold. If anything, Abbedagge is a little bit ahead. And with the creeps, with the plates, with the first strike, matching the gold of this Akali.
And that is important, especially when we look at lane assignments. Once these tier 1s start to break, it'll be that much easier for RNG to throw Breathe or Xiaohu onto a side lane. And Abbedagge is really the one who suffers in that circumstance. We have to keep track as we get later. RNG with the Sivir, more than enough wave clear to stop any press pushes in the mid lane. You can see another little death ball here, 3 members strong, looking to hope and catch someone out from the side of RNG. Way locked down the follow-up bear. The damage not quite though.
It's a bit awkward for 100 Thieves. You don't really want to have your Viktor on a side lane in bot, so Xiaohu's going to start hitting this tower. Ssumday though is going to get that top tower. Still a healthy gold lead right now, 400 Thieves. They will lose this bot tower as Abbedagge goes down to collect the wave. We'll see if he gets her in time actually. Wave's pretty small. The longer he can hold on to it, the more time he can buy, but he needs to be careful of Xiaohu finishing off the tower and then threatening a dive, but no W, no E means Xiaohu will back away. Might get it on the next couple of waves. Might even
Really
get it right
wants
now.
to finish it.
Abbedagge needs to be careful
Gravity
though.
field now locking him down, throwing the ult, just staying in his own gravity field. Xiaohu happy to grab the tower for now, but Abbedagge still trading very positively. The E misses! The E misses, and that's everything. They're already pulling away though. TP burned just to keep him healthy. Meanwhile, Renekton now going forward. Huhi and FBI holding strong in the mid lane, but Huhi's TP will not resolve, but Abbedagge still makes it out on the bottom side.
TP cancelled there by the Yuumi ult. I think Huhi's actually probably pretty happy about that because that means he can keep defending midway Ssumday.
One, ulti's traded.
So they're doing a good job of continuing to stop these backs from Breed. That's why he's got such a big health bar. He's managed to come in. GALA and Ming though en route.
Trying to run in, Breathe trying to bait it out. The stun now coming through. Somebody needs to finish the kill. Ssumday, can he do it? Breathe still standing. Ssumday! He cannot find the kill. Breathe with the outplay.
It was so close. One more auto attack there for Ssumday. He did a very good job of baiting out the Fiora W, but the numbers come in from RNG to defend the play. Herald is all of a sudden in this top lane, so it will get the top tier 1. 100 Thieves don't have much options for a cross map, and as much as we praise Ssumday for that play, he gets caught off a little bit there, too aggressive.
Yeah, the Rift Herald was about to time out for Wei, so just chucks it down to the top side, knowing that they want to try and get the turret. Wei's already up here on this top end of the map as well, and with GALA situated mid, it makes it very hard for 100 Thieves to actually answer with any sort of pressure elsewhere. There's a TP from Breed to get back onto top side, and this is where RNG gets scariest, when they're allowed to play out these side lanes. And it looks like now with the top turret going down mid, very low for 100 Thieves, they need to find ways to force these fights around the dragons.
And in that last exchange, it was just Divine Sunderer for Breathe. But now he's gone back, he's got the Tiamat, he's got the extra longsword, he's got the Bam Scepter, crashing a tower in as well. He's about to be 2 items, and that's where things get so very difficult for Ssumday. For so long, he had a bit of a sustained advantage in the 1v1, but that will all fade away very quickly.
Abbedagge on the side lane now, catching these top waves. Xiaohu, no TP. Breathe, no TP. So TP advantage for 100 Thieves. We'll look at this one again, because Ssumday ease forwards here and baits out the Fiora W. Then ease back in again. Actually, flash W's the Fiora with the Rage. Gets the E2, but not enough damage. If there was no members here from RNG, he could drop the tower aggro by going downwards and then re-enter through top and look for Breathe. But Breathe would run away, but Ssumday wouldn't lose his life. But good move from RNG to help out their top laner, collapse in and get that kill.
Absolute game of inches. Looked like Divine Sunderer as well as the Grasp proc being that giant source of healing that kept Breathe alive. Tense 1v1, but of course they only gets harder for the Renekton as we get later and later to the game. We know what a scaling monster the Fiora can be. 100 Thieves again grouping up. Way threatening like he can go in there.
they're sending Ssumday top with the TP to catch that wave, so they're waiting until that one's cleared before they fully want to try and commit to getting the likes of vision around this dragon. They have a good amount of vision in river at the moment, but would love to get that slightly deeper, especially if Xiaohu or Breathe are looking for these flank opportunities.
GALA 2 items, has the flash back up. We saw Closer trade his ult for flash a little bit earlier on in the game. That was when the second dragon was spawning. Now the third one's up. GALA's flash is available. Level 11 on the Yuumi, level 11 on the Sivir. Breathe grouping up, doesn't have the TP. Ssumday moving his way down towards this next mid wave.
Getting a bit of poke down on a Breathe. No CC though, so won't find the stun back in response. 100 Thieves grouping, but RNG priority control over the mid lane. Ssumday the only one left to clear that wave to try to hold on against this onslaught. Tower will fall. RNG, do they want to push for more here?
Yeah.
And this is a really good call from RNG. I mean, second dragon for 100 Thieves doesn't mean a huge amount, but again, these towers are so important to the way this composition executes. So now you've got a very long lane that GALA can continue to shove in continuously. You've got access to get vision on both sides of the jungle. So RNG happy to trade that dragon for positioning on the map.
And we saw this in the CFO games, that when you start to fall behind with a composition that wants to function as a death ball in these fights, it just becomes harder and harder to force fights on your terms. RNG taking more and more of the map away from 100 Thieves. And if they group up like this, if they group up as 5, it's so easy for RNG to just do something away from the 5 stack.
Yeah, it's all about pressure points, playing on multiple lanes, threatening flanks. These are the things that 100 Thieves have to be very, very cautious of. In that case, they trade the towers for the dragon. See if that pays off in the long run. Cloudsoul not the greatest, but as many dragons as possible is what you want to look for. As much scaling as possible. 100 Thieves going to get this mid wave in. Topside vision put down to deny any kind of Baron start from RNG, which would be relatively slow, but the Sivir is building towards that Infinity Edge. That's the next break point for RNG.
Certainly is. Huhi and FBI scaling pretty well thus far, but always feels impossible to match the Sivir Yuumi as we get later and later into the game, and the value of On the Hunt and disengaging or engaging some of these fights is closer. Taking a big chunk there, the Yuumi's getting stronger.
And this game just feels so tense at the moment. 100 Thieves, we know how much damage they can do, especially Abbedagge coming from that mid lane. If they can find the fight, they can turn this game fully back in their favor, but one slip up, RNG get another tower for themselves. It feels so hard to continue.
What I would love to see from 100 Thieves here is when Breed's showing bot and Xiaohu is catching top, just EQ ult onto the Sivir with Jarvan, get her flash, and then do it again on the next mid wave. Otherwise, GALA has so much confidence to step forwards. Breed looks like he might be in trouble here.
Closer on the way down. Waiting, trying to bait out. Now wants to commit fully, has the ultimate, does a ton of damage here, but should just get caught out Ssumday. Relatively low. Breathe now trying to heal back up. It will not be enough. The parry coming through, but he will get cut down. That's a pick, but already RNG in the mid lane looking to fire back.
Moving into top side, they'll get a little bit of vision down here. No top tier 1 to play for, and the wave is very far away from that tier 2. The ping's coming down from 100 Thieves. They realize and they recognize that all of them need to go back to base quickly so they can defend this tower.
You can see the pings coming through from 100 Thieves on a deep ward that they have as well, just at the back of the blue pit on RNG's side. So maybe they look for a super long flank to try and make that one work, but Ssumday still pushing on bot side. Now going to go back to base, but looks like RNG are going to back away, unsure of if they actually had anything behind them cleared out.
So we get a taste of how 100 Thieves deal with these side lanes. They commit 4 people to kill the Fiora, and in a case in 10 minutes time from now, RNG would be able to demolish the base if they had proper waves set up. This is quite early on. The waves weren't in the best of spots. The tier 2 mid was already down, so they had enough room and time to work with that pick, but they need to be very careful when they commit onto it.
Huhi, what can he do here? Senna shield now coming in, but there's still so much damage coming in. He's surviving for now. Stopwatch keeping him alive. Ssumday waiting over the wall. This is it. This is the 5v5. Abbedagge running into the backline, but he does so much damage. Xiaohu desperate to find the hill. Closer, so close to getting taken out. He needs to get out to safety, but again, his stopwatch keeping him healthy. GALA down, 100 Thieves holding on to hope. They've got so much sustain. The death ball is online, and they are descending upon RNG. Xiaohu running, Breathe running, parry will not be enough. Trying desperately to survive. Blasco now to safety, still standing, still running, but he's got no health. He's got no TP. He's got no time. What can 100 Thieves get with this?
Abbedagge can TP in. NA Faithfuls make some noise. They're going to get the mid-tier 1. Can they get the Baron as well? They don't have a jungler on the map, but that was so many summoners used by RNG. Absolutely everything, including teleports. And 100 Thieves won it. The stopwatches were buying so much time.
And we said all it would take is one fight for 100 Thieves to get control of this game, where they can disrupt the tempo that RNG had built up, and that was it. Now they're the ones that can push outside lanes, get them to RNG side of the map, and in a minute's time, that third dragon is available for 100 Thieves.
100 Thieves have a game state here where they're playing triple TP, all up, triple global against the side lane comp of RNG with no globals. We'll take a look at this one again because Huhi looks like he's caught out initially. GALA invests a spell shield to dodge away from the Seraphine ult. Stopwatch buys time, flashes away. Everyone then commits onto Closer, who then kites away with his flash. And guess what? He has too, a stopwatch as he gets over this wall, and Xiaohu tries to gap close. All the meanwhile, FBI, Abbedagge, and Huhi reposition and get the damage down onto GALA.
And this was so well executed the whole way through from 100 Thieves. As you said, dodging in, diving in, constantly resetting who's the focus from RNG side. And the fact that you managed to take so many of those key abilities like Xiaohu's ultimate on towards these stopwatch targets means that 100 Thieves can follow through. GA now completed for Closer. He can go ham in these fights to set up 100 Thieves.
Got a Hourglass coming in as well from Abbedagge. Makes it so much easier, and you can see their RNG overestimating their damage. They thought that they could one-shot Huhi. As we get later, that will become more and more deadly. That potential engage the Sivir as she gets more items, but for now, 100 Thieves pressing the fight, pressing the advantage. Small gold lead, but they need to get more.
100 Thieves will get the dragon. RNG will not contest. Two big points to keep your eye on. Number one, GALA has the Infinity Edge, just picked up from base. Xiaohu very close at Rabadon's. Number two, no flash on that Sivir. That means for the next 2 or 3 minutes, 100 Thieves should dominate this map. GALA cannot step up on these mid-waves. Triple TP, Jarvan ult, so much gap close. He will die, doesn't have any defensive tools, but RNG are gonna wait out that flash, wait out the Rabadons on Xiaohu, wait out the level 16 as well, and then they will look for round 2, but round 1, baby, it goes to USA.
And you can see how slow 100 Thieves are playing this. They actually commit the jungler to mid to hold the push, and Ssumday, though, has spotted out that RNG wanted to try and cross that map this, wanted to try and trade for the top side, but now RNG have to run away because 100 Thieves, they're on the hunt.
Are they going to force Baron here? Are they going to try to collapse onto RNG? No tier 1 means that they have quite
Breathe
far
is
to run. Breathe is bot
He's
with no
got no
TP.
teleport.
100 Thieves have a window to TP in the Renekton here and look for the Baron, but they're going to EQ out. Not going to take any risks. The game is in their hands. 3 items on the Seraphine. Abbedagge has 3 items too. 100 Thieves slowing it down. They have soul point. Don't want to rush anything.
And 100 Thieves as 5 are terrifying. The amount of sustain, the amount of shielding, the damage over time, only continuing to stack in their favor. The threat that you've highlighted so many times is GALA. It's Xiaohu Breed if they can dive onto the back line, but GALA at the end of the day is the one who has to bring it home in terms of sustained DPS.
The Rabadon's death cap completed from Xiaohu, though, is massive. He is really taken over in that one-shot potential. And now you got major threat onto FBI, on towards the AD carry for 100 Thieves. Still a little bit suspect because Abbedagge and Huhi both have that Sonya's Hourglass available, so aren't a huge amount of targets, but he can be such a big difference maker here.
Let's not forget, if 100 Thieves win this, they stay alive in the group stage and they can fight for a tiebreaker. If RNG win, they are out. Genji is locked as well. This is a 100 Thieves roster that not many people had faith in after that first week. This roster's been together for 3 splits. They've made 3 finals, but so hard to have faith in them. But now up against RNG, they have a very good comp for 5v5s. They have control of the map up against the MSI champions. Are they going to look to force Baron, though? Breathe TP is back up.
And you can see what RNG are trying to do. Xiaohu moving down into that bot side with Breathe. They're trying to see if they can double commit to a lane, catch 100 Thieves with their pants down, but 100 Thieves are playing this slow, they're playing it right, and they're going to start the Baron.
There's no flanking ward. They have to go so deep to get flanking vision. 100 Thieves again pulling back. Blue Trinket used. Buys them so much time. Taking stock. Flash is just around the corner for so many. If they can find a pick, they can force the Baron. Prowling Projectile will find one. The Luden's revealing that someone is in the brush.
That might have been the highest value Q I've ever seen from a Yuumi, spotting out all the members of 100 Thieves there. The vision behind 100 Thieves that's in the jungle is starting to die out for RNG, so they don't have any way to create these flanks now with that vision. So Xiaohu hiding off to the side. Ssumday resetting, can TP in if 100 Thieves decide to go for a fight.
Big item spikes for RNG. Summoners back up. They're ready for a fight if they're presented with one, but it's very hard to find and engage. The Vi going in without stopwatch will get melted. 100 Thieves have so many defensive tools. The GA you talked about, but also the healing coming out of this lineup with the Senna. Seraphine flashes back up as well. Zhonya's on Abbedagge. It's really hard to just find that singular target for RNG. 100 Thieves, their main focus, their primary focus this entire game is keeping mid waves in, and if they can keep the mid push and GALA under this tier 2, they're always first to collapse to either side if RNG try try to get aggressive onto Ssumday or Abbedagge.
100 Thieves, the last hope for North America, the team that's now taking a toe-to-toe against the MSI champions. They have the team fight. They're the ones in control. They just need to try and bring this home. 2 minutes until the Dragon, and that can be where they look for that big fight, where they look to shut RNG out of this game.
Cloud Soul would be really, really useful when it comes to using these ultimates on these mobile carries, that extra move speed to kite out the mobility of the RNG topside. Mid-wave contests coming in.
And so much wave clear with the Viktor as well as the Seraphine to push these waves out, to leverage their man advantage, to get mid push, to start to fight for control of this Baron pit again. Fiora on top side getting scarier and scarier. Xiaohu still scary in the 1v1, the 2v2, the 3v3, but the 5v5 is all that the Thieves want.
I mean, but look at where the vision line is right now for RNG, right? You got it all across here, all across here. It's super defensive when you look towards where 100 Thieves are. They haven't been able to get any of that vision pushed up through into River. That's what they're trying to achieve now, and that's giving the opportunity for RNG to push in on bot side, get vision control, and now potentially look for the tier 2.
100 Thieves just saw Vi on their entrance towards Wolves. I'm surprised they didn't go for a Baron rush there. They were contemplating it, but decided to call off. They're threatening a Baron trade here for a Dragon. If RNG tried to deny the stun...
Free area, Breathe caught out the stun, locking him down. He leaps over the wall. He makes it out for now. Blast cone out to safety. Now they have to force. TP available for Xiaohu. RNG, what are they willing to commit to stop this Wei? Looking for the steal. Wei coming around the corner. They have no vision in their own jungle. Their vision line's too pushed forward. Can Wei get the steal? Wei, can you take it away? No! Not today! 100 Thieves standing strong as the death ball. And Seraphine all now coming out. GALA locked, forced to flash away to safety. The back line of 100 Thieves still standing strong, closer. The GA coming in. Wei descending, getting lower and lower and lower. Xiaohu burning all of it. Pulled out, but 100 Thieves still standing. 100 Thieves, so much healing. Xiaohu trying to make the play, but no! RNG, weather the storm! RNG, no! Ssumday goes golden, but that's gotta be it. They gotta burn through the Renekton. They take him down. The Baron to 100 Thieves, but the fight to RNG.
GALA stands on so little HP. Xiaohu will take down the backline of 100 Thieves, and just like that, 100 Thieves are routed, and the LPL fans erupt.
It's a 4 for 2. They only have one Baron buff left on Huhi. RNG will get the Dragon and deny the soul. If Ssumday went down a little bit quicker there and didn't get that last kill at the end of the fight, maybe RNG could have done a lot more on the waves in 100 Thieves' base. Wei doesn't get the smite. Closer keeps his cool, but it's FBI that drops really quick into this fight as Wei singles him out. The Senna falls despite the flash backwards, so it's a 4v5 from the get-go. GALA's forced to flash out. Closer chases him and has the GA to buy time next to the carries of RNG, so it's on 100 Thieves to get Breathe and Wei down as quick as possible, but they kite them out for so long. Abbedagge falls and they lose so much damage.
It's the fact that that ult from Fiora comes across for Xiaohu at the end of that. He manages to stay in the backline, manages to get the healing he needs to kill off the carries for 100 Thieves, and Ssumday will buy some time at the end. But once more, Xiaohu 7-0 on this Akali. He's putting in heroic work for RNG.
Let's take stock of the game then. RNG deny the Dragon. Baron buff still on this Seraphine for a 10,000 damage! Are you kidding? He did more than his whole team combined.
Xiaohu, so often the facilitator for this team, the Lissandra. He'll play for his lanes, but this game, it is his time. It is his show. Ssumday has to be careful on the top side. No, Breathe, rather, as he has been caught out. Now has to run for the hills. The stun coming through. The rest of the team ready to follow up. Breathe, so incredibly mobile. 100 Thieves burning everything they can to take down this Fiora. Breathe will fall. 100 Thieves will find the pick, but already you can see RNG looking to make a play of their own, barreling down the mid lane. They want to break open the base of 100 Thieves.
100 Thieves are not recalling. Ssumday is going to drop it now, so they call off this base race. They were considering just running it down top and looking for this tier 2. But RNG barreling down mid. They will lose the inhibitor here. 100 Thieves for that pick. You can see that they're really, really cautious of these side lanes, trying to deny the Fiora with these 5-man ganks constantly closer. No, Wolf might need to be careful here.
Closer, they're going in on Abbedagge. They're trying to turn the fight in the end. All that matters is GALA, and GALA stands strong, trying to be zoned away. The Viktor ultimate is not enough. Huhi is here, but GALA still stands. GALA finally down. Now the Thieves, they can take the fight. They took out GALA away running. Xiaohu. Oh, he's made so many play happens, but it's too late. When GALA falls, the fight falls. And 100 Thieves moving in to clean up the pieces.
RNG thought they could take the fight. You could see the pings on Huhi, the question marks going, right, it's a 4v4, maybe we can do this, but the TP immediately back from Huhi means he's there, and RNG will be pushed back. How much can 100 Thieves get?
100 Thieves backs against the wall, facing elimination in the face, and right now they're putting up a hell of a fight. Tier 2 mid's gonna fall. RNG look for the turn on to Abbedagge, but the stopwatch buys so much time. And the game calms down for a brief moment. 2 minutes left on these next objectives. This is where RNG look to turn.
And this was so crucial. You could see the pings. They knew that huhi wasn't there. They jump onto the Viktor, but GALA, afraid to step forward, isn't able to finish off the Viktor while he CC'd. And this whole time, that Viktor ult from Abbedagge is doing so much work on towards the Sivir. The only person with the DPS falls, and that's where 100 Thieves are able to turn this one around. But now you've got to look at the dragon that's coming up momentarily. Wards were placed by RNG up mid lane as they started to reset. So you can just see them at the back here. 2 flank wards placed on the way out. And that's what they'll be looking to use now as we start to move in towards their next fight.
But take a breath, New York. Everyone at home. 1 minute and 40 seconds till either objective spawns. You'll have plenty to shout for. Both teams will have plenty to fight for. This is the calm before the storm. Both sides so close to victory. A single decisive team fight could end it either way. The Soul for 100 Thieves, the Baron. They group now, trying to find a pit, desperate to get something before the next fight breaks out.
The dance begins with 1 minute on those objectives. 100 Thieves looks like they're sticking to the same game plan. If RNG want to go bot side and deny this Soul point, then they'll secure themselves a Baron once again. I don't think they'll want to cut it as close as they did last time, leaving it to a 50-50 closer one this time around. Mid-wave contest coming in, constant push here for 100 Thieves, keeping those wards in the lane, making sure they're aware of rotations. First decides to deny Breathe and Xiaohu any kind of push outs, but Xiaohu 8-0-0, level 18 Akali. Abbedagge, not sure how far he is away from that Rabadon's death cap, but when he picks that up, that's his final spike. GA still on cooldown here for Ssumday. Stopwatch is picked up for the mid-bot side of 100 Thieves. Defensive items at the ready. Wei needs to find his target and be very careful not to run into a stopwatch and get turned straight on by the 100 Thieves lineup.
This is going to be a massive push-pull. Can 100 Thieves get on to GALA? Can they take out the Sivir? Or will Abbedagge fall first? As you say, massive amount of damage coming out from this Viktor in the backline, and he will be the one that is providing a lot of the damage percent from 100 Thieves right now.
One more mid-wave will decide it all. 100 Thieves want to push it in and go towards Nash. RNG want to push it in and go towards Drake, but RNG cannot afford to give up this Baron. They need to be on their toes, need to be ready if 100 Thieves rush towards it. Ssumday has the TP ready. Will be matching Breathe on this bot side. The 4-man of 100 Thieves, are they going to start it up? Yes, they are. How does RNG respond? Baron getting burned down way in the vicinity.
Xiaohu off to the side. Xiaohu desperate to work his way to the back line. Baron taking down 6K, it's getting lower. Are they going to fight or are they going to force it? It looks like they want the 50-50. It's getting lower and lower, way right into the back line. But now the Seraphine coming out. It's going to connect on to Xiaohu, and that's clutch. But already GALA shredding through the front line. 100 Thieves. For now, the back line, 100 Thieves standing strong. Healing massive coming in from Wave. He's locked down for now, but GALA is still alive. Abba is still alive. Abbedagge cut down. And that should be the fight for 100 Thieves. FBI, it's a heroic effort. But it cannot be enough. Closer buying the space. Closer trying to buy time. But this is GALA's world, and we're all just living in it.
And that for RNG is the turnaround they needed. Abbedagge versus GALA, and GALA will stand tall as RNG move towards the base and guarantee the LPL another seed in playoffs.
Final moments, the final fight for 100 Thieves. They went toe-to-toe with one of the best in the world, but ultimately they fell just short. RNG take the fight.
Locked into quarters next to Gen G. 100 Thieves are eliminated. This is a team that everyone doubted in the West, saying that they weren't really the hope, but they were showing up in this game and they almost tucked down RNG. They'll be kicking themselves after that one because there was so many moments where it felt like they were in there. It was in their hands this game. But RNG, pincer movement, flanked onto 100 Thieves and they just couldn't deal with it. The front to back wasn't strong enough. The death pool tried their best, but RNG come out on top.
And it was a great flank from Wei at the end there. Manages to walk the whole way around the pit, immediately ults onto Abbedagge, immediately makes him blow that stopwatch, and it meant that there just wasn't enough then for the rest of that team to carry through as GALA was able to survive on the back of that fight.
And that's what's so devastating, is it's when RNG start the fight first or 100 Thieves start the fight first, it falls apart so quickly. You either burn down GALA or you die. And credit, because GALA at the end of the day doing so much damage from the backline, but the Fiora performance, the Akali performance, immaculate. Xiaohu, a monster in this game.
Just looking at damage dealt here, Ssumday, 26,000, highest damage of his team. He was buying so much time in that last fight. His Guardian Angel was on cooldown. That maybe could have changed the way the fight progressed because Breed was the one who flashed forwards to get the kill, to get the Fiora ult in the middle of the fight.
I'd just like to point out as well, Xiaohu has 22,000 damage. That means half of his damage this game came from that one team fight. That one team fight where he absolutely destroyed 100 Thieves. But, I mean, heartbreaking for 100 Thieves. They looked absolutely spectacular. They really pushed RNG to everything that they had, and unfortunately, they just couldn't get it across the line.
Miracle Run does not quite come to fruition, but still an excellent 2 games to start the day. We'll see if they can find more redemption in the 3rd game, even if they can't find their way out of the group stage. We're breaking down that win for RNG at the State Farm Analyst Desk, so let's head over.
Thank you very much, Dracos. And oh my God, it must be such a frustrating one for 100 Thieves and for RNG. Talk about crawling your way back to a victory after being knocked down a few times and just being so incredibly huge for the side of Xiaohu. I know you were watching the last fight back just before we came to the analyst desk because you just wanted to see what happened there from both sides.
Yeah, there were like small points within the fight. Just wanted to see how it would actually fare out. Just wanted to see like small things because this fight from 100 Thieves side is really reliant on the Seraphine ulti and its placement. I think it went a little bit too wide to the left, but all in all, it was just overall hard fight because of how strong the Akali was.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. It's a difficult situation because 100 Thieves are getting split out. They've already lost their mid lane inhib. They realize, all right, we don't have an answer for Fiora bot lane anymore, so we need to force something. We need to find the 5v5. But to me, this is actually where it all went wrong. Abbedagge stepped so far forward there. He needed to continue kiting back up. He basically walked down and then just flashed back to where he was, so he didn't actually create any space because there's so much pressure on him to perform. This late in the game, Viktor really is your only real threat. And unfortunately, it's that small mistake that I think is going to cost them huge in the fight.
I want to hone in on that because you say it's those mistakes, and we talked about it at the top of the day. You don't get away with anything versus these teams. Is this an example of that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously, RNG is an incredible team-fighting team. They do have a lot of scaling in their comp as well. You know, it's late game Fiora, it's Sivir Yuumi, which is undefeated so far at Worlds. And you just don't get to make any little mistake in positioning, or Viktor's going to go down.
And this, to me, is one of the biggest examples where you see how a draft is rated depending on which team is playing it. This is something that's been a recurring theme for Worlds. We had in-depth discussion even earlier about Fiora and tanks. And it comes to fruition here again. The Sivir Yuumi is the only part of this draft where I think anyone's like, that's really strong. No matter what, you're always going to like that. But a draft with Vi, Akali, and Fiora can completely fall apart, especially in 5v5s. This is not executed well. And I think that this is where RNG really showed how good of a team they are. The fact that they're able to make a composition with a really high skill floor work the way they did.
Absolutely. I mean, it's one of those things where they're attacking from multiple angles and they're splitting up a fight in a way that it becomes a 2v2 over here, a 2v1 over there. It's a 3v3 on this side, right? Like it's all these little skirmishes that are happening at the same time. And to me, that is really what makes their composition work and why it's so difficult to execute. Because 100 Thieves could never really get the cohesive front-to-back 5v5, which is what this comp really kind of wants.
1000%. And we've seen the Senna Seraphine from 100 Thieves domestically. That was been something that they prepared for a lot versus like the likes of TL and stuff. So it was nice to see that that was their response to the Yuumi composition, and it was working for a little bit. That being said, there were mistakes being made from the side of RNG, you know, to get themselves in that position. But they did start out strong, and I wanted to start out that 1 point from RNG. RNG, about like 8 minutes into the game, made the decision towards picking up bot lane turret, just like I think they denied a wave and took down turret plate while 100 Thieves were getting Rift Herald, and what ended up surmounting to, you know, GALA getting ahead. And I like that idea. I think it was a strong sentiment, and it was more so the collapse because 100 Thieves were getting a little bit greedy. They ended up going for the Raptor camp, and it was Xiaohu, Ming, and Wei that really responded strongly in combating that. So I love that. It actually started with a 3-for-1 for RNG, and they actually started this game with an early game lead.
And one of the key things in this composition, I think, is making sure that the Sivir gets the skill comfortably into the mid to late game. Because then, no matter what the game state is, one botched team fight from 100 Thieves, one engage doesn't quite work out, and you can win team fights post free item spikes no matter what.
Well, this is somewhere though where I have to actually give a lot of credit to 100 Thieves, because normally you'd be watching a game like this, it's like, oh, it's close for 8 minutes, and then they got 3 kills and the game ended. But this was a 40-minute game, and even with the kills going over, it was actually them doing incredibly well. This is Sivir in World, so the one loss was actually in play-ins. It was not actually in the group stage proper, where it's still undefeated. You look at the amount of damage it's putting out. Again, a lot of the stats are even better for the group stage. It's over 800 DPM. We saw average DPM of like 500, 600 for a lot of these AD carries. It's just been dominating, and the fact that it's ahead early is criminal.
And you know what? This is not a Sivir this is a Yuumi. This is a Yuumi graphic that we're looking at, because that's the reality. The only time when we've seen Sivir is when it's been combined with that Yuumi, and the combination of those two champions gives you 9 impossible to beat team fights. But we've also seen the laning isn't shabby. Like, outside of getting early dives and really going in hard, in terms of 2v2 lanes, that lane is completely fine. You have the spell shield, you have the double summoner or double combat summoners from Yuumi, so actually punishing it becomes so tough.
And I get you get baited into as the enemy team. You're like, oh, well, didn't get free roam in bot lane, didn't get a couple of kills early. Maybe we can work with this. But we saw RNG was like, no, we'll keep it in the back of their head. We'll give GALA some plates. And this is actually where 100 Thieves, they think, okay, now let's still capitalize on our prowess.
Yeah, I mean, because RNG started out by trying to get the pick on towards Seraphine, and they kited back quite well. It was GALA that was left alone and quite surprised at the damage coming out from the 100 Thieves squad.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, 100 Thieves, I think they did a good job of forcing around objectives, because if you play this game slow and you are too afraid to force, all that's going to happen is you're going to get 1-3-1 down, right? This game had to come down to 5v5s, and I think people are going to be, criticizing them, well, why would you start that Baron? You could have just kept playing. But the longer the game goes, the more opportunities there are for Breathe to just find a window to actually create a kill in the side lane and really pull you apart. So I did respect the fact that 100 Thieves were taking their swings, forcing at Dragons, forcing at Barons, because that's how the comp functions.
Yeah.
You could even see this with how RNG was playing, because every time that you did see the entirety of 100 Thieves go for an objective or even a shove, like 3 people from RNG would hightail for either a mid lane, and they got so many favorable objective trades, and I want to give credit to 100 Thieves for dealing with it as long and as well as they did, because a lot of other teams, I think, would kind of fold there, and they were able to get decent trades, but in the end, it wasn't enough.
No, and I think we can celebrate the fact that we saw proactivity coming out of 100 Thieves as well. They were set up, they kited some of these team fights well, but it's then when you get into kind of the juice of these matchups, the mid to late game, where LPL teams in general and RNG in specific always think they will be able to outfight you, and that's what we saw over and over.
Yeah, you hear it from the casters that Xiaohu was just really carrying the load this game. Yeah. And even though 100 Thieves were doing a great job at being, being able to like take opportunities on side lanes, be proactive and all that, he was just consistently getting kills and picking up gold throughout the team fight. And so that last team fight for me, they always had the threat in the back of the mind. Azale, you mentioned it, that RNG wanted to be able to pick them apart and try and flank. In that last team fight, it was actually the vibe, but then you have to like be constantly figuring out which team fighter you're taking. Are you taking it from the front? Or are you going to be worried about the flank coming out behind you?
Well, and I think that was one of the difficulties with the comp that they drafted, right? Is you draft Jarvan here, and I think draft, it functions really well into the Sivir, and it functions really well in the early stages. But in a lot of the fights, Jarvan is diving back into in the back line, and then Vi, Fiora, and the Akali are all diving your back line. Jarvan's off on his own. He can't actually win that. Can't really create any pressure there. And then the other squad from RNG is going to win out in their little skirmish on the other side of the fight.
And I like that the risks are being taken by 100 Thieves, as we see here. This is effectively a Baron flip. And initially it looks good for them. But this is exactly another textbook example of what you were talking about earlier, Zil. This isn't actually a 5v5 fight.
No.
If you have a corridor where you can group people against the Viktor, the Seraphine can hit a big ultimate, and Jarvan can lock them up, there's a lot of opportunity. But that's never happening because RNG is really using the available space to them to kind of pull apart the death ball.
Yeah, I feel like that is such a mark of these great teams, and I feel like it's a bait almost, and many times when you see a team that is an underdog in a situation where everything needs to go right in that situation, right? And RNG has already thought 2 steps ahead, being actually we want GALA in this position, and actually we want Wei in that position, because in 3 seconds this fight is going to look like this, and that's just a level of play that is very difficult to handle.
Well, I think that's kind of the beautiful thing about Worlds, right? Is that you get to watch these compositions piloted at the elite level. Literally the best in the world are here competing, because when you're you're talking about scaling, and when you're talking about team fight advantages, you have to assume some things, right? You're assuming a similar level of play.
Yeah.
You're assuming maybe how difficult it is to set up the team fights. But something that goes out of the window when you're talking about a team like RNG, or you're talking about a team like Gen.G or JDG, who are the literal best in the world, because they just always find the perfect setup for their team fights, no matter how difficult it seems to be. And then it doesn't matter if they have a disadvantage.
Yeah, we got to remember for RNG, they locked their spot in the quarterfinal with their current situation of being in isolation, which will not have helped, your clarity of mind. It's awesome for them that they were able to withstand in this game, I think. Unfortunately, we say goodbye to 100 Thieves, and with that also to Abbedagge. I wanted to check in with the mid lane matchup just once more. The storytelling about this guy in the mid lane, Xiaohu, is just unbelievable. The success as a top laner, the success as a mid laner, the success to, in that one necessary fight, get 10,000 damage, on this Akali. He is just such a clutch master.
Yeah, he's playing at another level. And I feel like if you take a step back, we talked about it coming into the matchup that he tends to sacrifice a bit to play towards a greater team fight, but he can also do something like this, play towards an assassin, pull in resources, and then be the guy. And that makes you quite scared about RNG as a team. As a reminder, they took down Gen.G, Seed 1 team in week 1, and they're the reigning MSI champion. And it actually speaks a lot towards the depth of the LPL that they came in as 4th seed, and they're coming in really strong. So really interested to see how the rest of the day goes, because you're right, they may have locked in the top 2, but now they got to do it again versus Gen.G.
It would be great if we get that bout for first place at the end of the day, but as we go to break, we can listen to Take Over, the 2020 World's Anthem on the League of Legends official playlist on Spotify. Check out more LOL music like Take Over on Spotify in the League of Legends hub. And while you check out more LoL Esports music, we're stepping away, but when we return, 100 Thieves face their final fight on the world stage. See you there.
I believe.
We at the top again, now would be lay the crown, but count us higher than a mountain. And we be up here for the long run, strap in for a long one. We got everybody on one. Now you coming at the king, so you better not miss. And we only get stronger with everything I carry up on my back. You should paint it up with a target. Why would you dare me to do it again? Come get your spoiler, but we're taking over. We're taking over. Hey, look at you loving my name. You ought to know by now that we're taking over. We're taking over. Hey, maybe you wonder what your future's gonna be, but I got it all locked up. Take a lap now, don't be mad now. Run it back, run it back. I got bodies lining up, think you're dreaming of greatness. Send you back home, let you wake up. Why would you dare?